Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is the prequel to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It shows the events of the imprisoning war that was mentioned at the beginning of the game. It is the third entry in the Hyrule Warriors series, which is not developed by Nintendo, but by another company called Koei Tecmo. It's a hack and slash game where you plow through hordes of enemies like nothing, just like Koei Tecmo's other franchise, Dynasty Warriors. Unlike the previous two Hyrule Warriors games, Age of Imprisonment is actually canon to the Zelda universe. I mean, the first one obviously wasn't canon, because you had Midna from Twilight Princess fighting along with Fi from Skyward Sword, which are at a bare minimum separated by probably 1,000 years. Now the second one, Age of Calamity, is where it gets interesting, because everyone thought it was going to be a canon prequel to Breath of the Wild, and would explain what happened 100 years ago. But it ended up being more of a what-if scenario, where Hyrule actually beat Ganon, and everyone lived happily ever after. That is not what I and many other Zelda fans wanted, so when they announced Age of Imprisonment, and said that it was actually canon to the Tears of the Kingdom story, I was very excited to say the least. Well, enough of this intro, let's see how it actually turned out. Now first of all, let's get this out of the way. I am personally not very fond of the hack and slash style gameplay of these games. I just don't like how mindless and repetitive it is. I mean, you're really just doing the exact same thing over and over again every mission. I do know that kinda is the point, and if this style of gameplay suits you, then fair enough, but I just don't find it very fun after a while. To be fair, it does have its moments where I kinda get into a flow state, and it is pretty fun, but those moments are few and far between, at least in my playthrough. You can get through pretty much the whole game by just button mashing. That's not what I did, at least to an extent. At the beginning of the game, I was actually using all the special abilities and memorizing combos for each character, but as time went on and I got more characters added to the roster, I kinda gave up on memorizing the combos and just started pressing Y and X at random. There are also things called weak point smashes, where you whittle down an enemy's defense gauge and can perform a huge hit that does a lot of damage. This is the main way the combat goes against the bigger enemies. Just whittle them down, weak point smash, and repeat. The enemy variety is also lacking. I understand they have to work with the material provided by Tears of the Kingdom, but it just kinda gets tiring to fight a Lionel for the 5th time in 2 missions. This game does add new enemies called Shades, which are like evil things. I don't know. They're pretty cool to fight for like the first 5 times, but after that they just get like any other enemy. None of this is necessarily a bad thing, because I really am just not the target audience for this kind of gameplay. I'm sure someone who enjoys these kind of games would have a blast. Anyway, the gameplay isn't the reason why I played this game, it's the story. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the characters in that story. There are definitely some good characters in this game, most notably Rauru and Zelda. But other than that, it's pretty lagging. I mean, you don't play Nintendo games for the writing, but in this case, I'm pretty sure that's why most people bought this game. Now, I'm not saying the characters are bad or anything, I just think they could have put a little more effort into fleshing out everyone aside from Rauru and Zelda. Like, for example, name me one other playable character aside from one of the 7 stages, and the Night Construct and Calamo. You can't. See, there are plenty of characters to unlock in this game, and they all have uses and cool animations and abilities, but nothing in the game actually makes you want to use them. There's one mission near the end of the game where you have to fight a white lion with some of the side characters, but it's completely optional. It's really the only mission that makes you use these guys. Throughout my whole 20 hours of gameplay, I probably used a side character 5 times at most. I mostly stuck with the 7 stages. The Night Construct and Calamo don't count as side characters, okay? They have their own whole storyline going on. In the case of the writing for the main characters, I think it's decent. Not the greatest, but could definitely be a lot worse. My favorite part that showcased the characters was probably when Sonia died. Not because she died, obviously, because of the reactions of Rauru and Zelda and the other characters that were close to her. They actually showed emotion, especially Rauru. When he was talking to Zelda and she reminded him of Sonia, that was actually a good scene. I kinda think Rauru is the main character in this game. I'd say he probably has the most screen time, and also the most character development. He goes from being hesitant about the Night Construct to actually having a one-on-one conversation with it. Well, as much as a one-on-one conversation you can have with something that doesn't talk. Speaking of the Night Construct, he's just Link. He has the same moveset as Link from Age of Calamity, and just his whole demeanor is just like Link's. The Night Construct and Calamo's dynamic is pretty good too. You can tell they have some chemistry, and I like how Calamo kinda acts like he's in charge, but also ends up doing whatever the Night Construct wants to do. Alright, let's get into why I actually played this game. The story. Like I said in the intro, this is a canonical prequel to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom that takes place during the era of Hyrule's founding and the imprisoning war, as Zelda got sent back in time to at the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom. This has many implications for the timeline, which already was thrown out of whack because of Breath of the Wild, but this just messes it up even more. Age of Imprisonment most likely just wipes the timeline clean and is a fresh start, because there is no other way I can think of to explain why Rauru would be the first king of Hyrule, other than maybe Hyrule was destroyed, and such a long time has passed since then that Rauru founded a completely new new kingdom. This can't be a new area though, because of the existence of the Spring of Power and the Forgotten Temple, both of which are from Skyward Sword. I have no idea how to explain the placement of all this, and I might make a whole video on this alone in the future, but if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. Age of Imprisonment shows us what exactly happened during the time Zelda was in the past, and how they kinda successfully sealed away Ganondorf. Since Tears of the Kingdom exists, we already know how this game will end, which isn't a bad thing at all. Actually, I think this works in Age of Imprisonment's favor by building anticipation throughout the story of what will lead up to each event in Tears of the Kingdom. Most of the characters in this game were already established in Tears of the Kingdom, though this game does flesh them out a lot more. I don't even know if in Tears of the Kingdom we got the names of the other 4 sages. All we knew about was Rauru, Zelda, and Sonia. There are also 2 new main characters that we follow separately from the 6 sages for a while, the Night Construct and Calamo. My favorite character though is definitely the Night Construct. It's a Zonai construct that is powered by the Shard of the Master Sword. I think this is an absolutely insane idea, but it kinda works. It's explained by saying that the Shard of the Master Sword that broke off and hit Ganondorf in the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom fell down with Zelda and got transported back in time along with her. Then, a small Korok named Calamo found the Shard of the Master Sword. It somehow got transported inside the Night Construct. I'm not sure how that exactly is explained, but then the Master Sword takes control of this construct and now it does good. I think this is pretty crazy and doesn't really make a lot of sense considering how the shard actually got to where Zelda was or whatever, but you know, it's cool, so I'll let it slide. The Night Construct himself isn't very interesting because he doesn't talk at all and doesn't really have emotions, but the fact that he always wants to help and defeat evil is interesting. At first I thought this was like the spirit of the hero, but then I realized, duh, it's just the Master Sword making him act like that. There is a parallel to the Night Construct, the Forbidden Construct, which is the same construct machine as the Night Construct, but was instead corrupted by a puppet of Ganondorf. The Night Construct is definitely my favorite playable character just because of how similar he is to Link. There really isn't any other character in the game that controls like that, so he is very special in that regard. All of his moves and combos are very fun to use. The Night Construct and Calamo's stories converge with the sages around halfway through the game. Speaking of the sages, in Age of Imprisonment they are called the 6 sages because Rauru isn't considered the Sage of Light, which he was in Ocarina of Time, which I think is weird, but in that game he wasn't the king, he was just the Sage of Light, so I don't know. In my opinion, he should be, so I'm just going to call them the 7 sages. All of these characters are much more fleshed out and play a much bigger role than in Tears of the Kingdom. I feel like Artie has the most development and plays the biggest role of any of the side characters. We also just get to see her a lot more than the other sages. The reason why I find her character so interesting and more developed than the other ones is because at the beginning of the game, she's a Gerudo. She is on Ganondorf's side, but Ganondorf has a feeling that her and her people are going to betray him, so when Ganondorf attacks Hyrule Castle the first time, he decides to track Artie's people down and kill them as a way to look good for the king, like he is removing the traitors. It works, and Artie is sent into hiding. Artie doesn't want help from the king in fear of seeming weak, but one of her soldiers goes to find the king anyway for help because they really do need it. Once Rauru and the other sages find Artie decides to join them. I just think she's more special than the other sages. The other ones are kind of generic and very bland. Each of the sages are representatives of their people or tribes or races we meet throughout the game, and later Rauru gives them the secret stones, which really turns them into sages. In Tears of the Kingdom, we see how Ganondorf gets his secret stone, but the Age of Imprisonment really elaborates on that. In Tears of the Kingdom, we just get to see Zelda and Sonia trapping one of Ganondorf's puppets, but then Ganondorf killing Sonia. After seeing that, you might be wondering, like, where was Rauru? Like, how could this happen? Where is everybody? And in Age of Imprisonment, that is explained. Ganondorf actually set up a trap for Rauru at the top of Mount Hylia, so that he and his soldiers would be away from the castle while Ganondorf does his cunning plan. When Rauru gets back to the castle and defeats the Forbidden Construct, he finds Sonia dead. The best part of the game is by far the ending. It's really what you spend most of the game looking forward to. So, our crew uses the Stormwind Arc from the Wind Temple in Tears of the Kingdom in order to get close to Hyrule Castle to take on Ganondorf. But that isn't the real plan. The real plan is that they are going to lure Ganondorf down underneath Hyrule Castle to a site of sacred power in order to lessen his power and amplify Rauru and Zelda's power. Once we all make it to Hyrule Castle, we once again fight through hordes of enemies. Once we're done with that, we confront Ganondorf, and to lure him to where Hyrule Castle will be in the future. During this big finale, the sages and the Night Construct both have their own fights going on. The sages are fighting Ganondorf's army in the depths below Hyrule Castle, while the Night Construct and Calamo are fighting the Forbidden Construct somewhere in Hyrule Field. I love the contrast between these two fights and how we go back and forth between the two. This whole ending sequence is amazing. There's so many cool scenes in this ending, like when Zelda, Rauru, and Sonia's spirit combine their power to defeat the Phantom Ganons that Ganondorf summons, while the Tears of the Kingdom main theme plays. Wow, it's just perfection. And in the climax, when Rauru seals away Ganondorf and tells him about Link, and the Night Construct getting the Master Sword while the Zelda main theme plays, it's just so perfect.
My heart and steal my magic. You plan to hold me here? What a clever way to solve your problems. But are you ready to pay the price for this?
Don't be so smug. I know exactly what it will cost me.
Thousands of years will pass in the blink of an eye. You only delay the inevitable.
You're wrong. Years from now, someone will appear with the sword that seals the darkness. A swordsman with the power to defeat you, Link. Remember this name.
They went all out for this ending. It was definitely worth the 20-hour wait. I remember wondering throughout the whole game, like, I wonder if the Night Construct is going to get the Master Sword. And I remember thinking, like, where would the Master Sword even be? And I guess in the end, he did get it. It was definitely my favorite moment of the whole game. After all of that, Rauru was left to seal away Ganondorf for thousands and thousands of years to come, and the shard of the Master Sword that was inside the Night Construct broke in order to give him the Master Sword. So he's now deactivated. During this whole game, Calamo, the Night Construct's companion, has been searching for a place to set down his roots and become a forest like all the other Koroks. He decides to root himself right where his best friend died. Just pretty sad, but also really nice. This ending just keeps getting even better because at the end, Lenalia, Zelda's maid or servant, turned out to be the one who made the murals on the walls beneath Hyrule Castle at the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom. It really all just comes full circle. All in all, this really is a good game. I had a really good time experiencing this story. It's just that the actual gameplay isn't really for me, but it's okay because that ending was worth all the thousands of X and Y presses. Age of Imprisonment is about what I expected it would be. Hack and slash game with mediocre gameplay, but a pretty good story. I definitely recommend this to anyone who likes Zelda, even if the gameplay isn't your style. The highs definitely outweigh the lows. And that ending, man, it really was absolutely amazing. Well, that's about it for me. Tell me what you thought of this game in the comments. Alright. I'll catch you later.